I think everyone by now knows that Raider is one of the best characters in Nightreign. He has his weaknesses, but overall he's not only strong but also very reliable and is very easy to use. That being said, there are still tips and tricks every Nightreign player should know, especially beginners. In this video I will go over the very basics of Raider's abilities, some general gameplay tips, best weapons, and lastly I will talk about Relics, which is probably what most people want to see. Before I continue, I just quickly wanted to remind you that at 1000 subscribers I will be doing the hardest possible Mesmer no Hit challenge, which will be at rune level 1 with bare fists only and with no shadow tree fragments or any buffs, so pretty much I can't use anything. The entire boss fight would be like 3 hours, so if that is something you wanna see then make sure to subscribe, that would mean a lot to me. Okay, let's begin. Raider is a character with a lot of health and stamina and he has perfect strength scaling, meaning that he will be best with strength based weapons. The rest of the attributes are kinda whatever, but from this alone it is clear what Raider is all about. He's best used as a tanky character who just bonks everyone with big strength weapons. The preferred weapon types for Raider are great hammers, great axes and colossal weapons, and for all of those he gets a unique moveset. The moveset looks cool, but it isn't the most practical, but that I will talk about later in the video. Just like any other Nightfarer, Raider has 3 main abilities. The character skill and the passive go hand in hand, so I will talk about the skill first, which is called Retaliate. Raider pretty much stomps and does a headbutt, but what makes this ability great is that you get pretty much infinite hyper armor and a lot of damage negation. Now, the passive ability boosts the character skill further. After taking some amount of damage, Raider's body becomes steamy. Whoa, pause. And now, instead of the headbutt, Raider does this strike attack, which not only has a bigger range, but it also does more damage and way more stance damage. With this move you can pretty much stun a boss out of any attack. Oh, and I didn't mention the best part, which is that you can die during the ability's animation. So if an insane attack is coming your way, just use the skill and you will be left at least on 1 HP. The last ability he has is the ultimate, which is called Totem Stella. Raider basically creates this pillar, which does damage in a pretty big AoE. This ultimate is not the best, but it also is not the worst. It does decent damage and the pillar itself can come in handy for reviving teammates or simply for avoiding a boss's attacks by standing on top of the pillar. But what makes this ultimate better is that you and your teammates get a 50% damage increase for 20 seconds, and that is just amazing. The pillar can be annoying, especially if a boss gets stuck in it, but nonetheless it is a pretty alright ultimate. Raider has a pretty basic playstyle, which is easy to pick up and get great value out of. It doesn't require a lot of setup, all you basically have to do is run around killing bosses and collecting weapons. And that is pretty much about it. Even though he does have a lot of health and poise, it is worth to pick up buffs that boost these attributes, to even further increase your survivability. Stamina buffs are also very important, because colossal weapons tend to use a lot of stamina, so it is quite important to have more of it. There are 2 main ways you can fight with Raider. One is to two-hand your weapon and the second is to power stance your weapons. Personally, I would go for power stancing any day of the week, and let me explain why. So, Raider gets a unique moveset for great hammers, great axes and colossal weapons. But this unique moveset is quite bad. The light attacks are fine, but even those feel slow and sluggish to use. Usually how you play a strength build in these games is by spamming charge heavy attacks. But here you can't do that because the charge heavy takes forever to land. Now before anyone says I'm hating, the moveset is okay. But power stancing is just way better. Yes, it does consume more stamina, but you also tend to do way more damage. There is a way to make the one weapon playstyle work, but more about that in the Relics section of the video. Okay, now let's talk about the best weapons. Since Raider doesn't have that much FP, I never find myself really using any Ashes of War. I mean, I sometimes do, but that's kinda rare. Because of that, it doesn't really matter what weapons you are using, all of them are good. There is such a big list of great hammers, great axes and colossal weapons that you will always find something during a run. Of course you can use other weapons if you stumble upon them, especially if they mainly scale with strength. Just look out for the weapon with the most amount of damage and go bonk every boss. That being said, the Axe of Godfrey is a pretty crazy weapon to get, because not only is it the highest damaging weapon for Raider, but if you use a charged heavy attack you get a 20% damage buff for 15 seconds, which is pretty insane. Now let's talk about relics. First I will go over the character specific perks you can find, and then I will go into the specific relic combinations. So the first perk is the one that increases the duration of the ultimate from 20 seconds to 30 seconds. Now this one can seem bad, because the pillar can be very annoying, but this also means that now you get the 50% damage buff for 30 seconds instead of 20, and that is pretty good. That being said, I don't run that buff very often, but for sure use it, it is pretty good. The next character specific perk is this one, which increases damage by 10% and max stamina by 20% for 20 seconds if you take damage during the character skill animation. This buff is just perfect and is definitely a must pick, because you will pretty much always either use the skill to negate damage, or will get hit during the skill because of the long animation, so you simply get a free damage and stamina buff. The next two perks are not really specific to Raider, but they are about his ultimate, so yeah. This one restores 20% of your max HP for every enemy defeated near Totem Stella, which is a lot, but the problem is that it requires fighting small enemies, which the ultimate will kill anyways, so I don't know, in my opinion this buff is kinda pointless. And lastly we have this one, which reduces all incoming poise damage by 50% next to Totem Stella. Of course poise is important, but Raider already has a lot of it, so I don't know if this is all that useful. Of course this is still a great buff, but I would probably pick other perks above this one if I had the option. Now let's talk about some general perks you should look out for. Of course you can't go wrong with plus 3 vigor, plus 3 endurance, or increased maximum HP or stamina. Another great perk you can get is this one, which increases damage by 15% for 10 seconds if you get hit. And yeah, for Raider this is a no-brainer, so if you find a relic with this buff, make sure to use it. A lot of people lately have been talking about the improved initial standard attack buff, saying how good it is. And yeah, it is great. If you really want to use one weapon, then go for this perk, which increases damage of the first light attack by 13%. If you get 3 relics with this buff, you can get a 44% damage buff in total. In my opinion, this is the best way to make the two-handed playstyle viable and potentially even better than the power stance playstyle. But you are sacrificing 3 relic slots for that, which I don't know, you're kinda forced into one playstyle where only one of your attacks gets a buff. Again, this is not for me, but try it out for yourself. You can get one relic with this buff from the collector signboard, and yeah, the whole relic is great if you want to play with that playstyle. Now, if you want to power stance, you can consider using this relic, which you can also get from the collector signboard, and this one is just amazing. But what I personally would suggest is to go for a more general relic setup, so that you don't lock yourself into a specific playstyle. So now let's get into specific relics which everyone can get. Of course, the most busted relic at the moment is the Evergel one, which you can buy from the collector signboard. It increases your damage by 5% for every Evergel cleared. And yeah, by now I think everyone knows how great this relic is. From the collector signboard you can also get this relic, which has the extended duration of the ultimate. It also gives you more damage with colossal weapons and more stamina. This maybe wouldn't be my first choice, since sometimes you will have runs where you get a great hammer or a great axe, but this is still a decent relic. A very good relic is the Torn Braided Cord, which you can get by doing Raider's Remembrance quest. It has the amazing perk which increases damage and stamina, and it also just gives you more strength, so yeah, you really can't go wrong with this one. You can also get this relic or pretty much any relic that improves critical hits, but I would only use those if I am playing solo, because in co-op it is quite difficult to stagger bosses. And lastly, you can get some survivability relics, which I will show right now on the screen. But probably the best one is the Knight of the Fathom, especially if you play co-op. I feel like in co-op that relic is a must, but even in solo it can be viable since the HP increase is pretty huge. Okay, so there are a lot of relics, but what are the best combinations? Right now I will show some relics which everyone can get by playing the game, so I won't be showing any random relics I have. What you see on the screen is probably one of the best relic combinations for Raider. The yellow and blue relics are pretty much indispensable, simply because the Evergel meta is very strong at the moment, and the blue relic just has a very good buff for Raider. Now when it comes to the red relic, there are different ones you can go for, but for co-op I think the safest bet is to go for the Knight of the Fathom relic. But if you don't care about that, you can go for the Power Stancing relic or the critical hit one I talked about previously. I mean, this might not be the best relic setup for you, but yeah, with this one I have found a lot of success. Of course, you can go for a different relic setup that fits a specific playstyle, but this one is very general and will work in every situation and every run, so you can decide on the spot how you want to play. So yeah, that's about it. If you have any questions, make sure to ask them in the comments down below, I will answer all of them. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, press like and subscribe. See you in the next one.